righty. Here we are. Well, welcome to the Palm Beach County Board of County Commissioners zoning meeting for Thursday, May 25th. And may we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Barnett.
Here.
Commissioner Baxter. Here. Commissioner Bernard.
Here.
Commissioner Marino.
Here.
Vice Mayor Sachs. Here. Mayor Weiss.
Here.
Commissioner Woodward.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to have our invocation and pledge of allegiance going to be led by Commissioner Barnett. If you're able to, please rise.
Eternal God, in these troubled times when anxiety runs high and frustration runs deep, in the face of political transitions and an economy writhing in disarray, we are grateful for reminders of your presence with us, your love for us, and your grace towards us. Teach when we think that we do not have enough of this, that, or the other, to be more grateful for what we do have than fearful about what we don't, and more appreciative of what we have left than embittered over what we have lost. Show us, O God, where we need to be more swift to bless than to belittle, more quick to love than to loathe, and in this season of Thanksgiving, more generous in our offered compassion to the forgotten and forlorn. Make our lives the answers to the very prayers that we offer in your most holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm supposed to pull something from consent for Patrick.
All right. Okay. So as we're getting started this morning, just to notify everybody, we will be taking a break for lunch. I know a number of folks have an event to attend, so we're going to try and look for a breaking point between 11:30 and 11:45, and then resume at 1:15. So that's what we're going to try and do this morning if we're able to make that happen. Okay. Have we had has notice been given?
Yes,
And do we have proof of publication?
we do.
Okay, with that, would somebody like to make a motion to receive and file? We have a motion from Commissioner Marino and a second by the Vice Mayor to receive and file. All in favor, all opposed, that motion carries 7-0. All right, if you're planning to speak at any point today, and I think we'll probably do it again potentially, but we'll turn it over to the attorney to swear in our speakers.
Anyone wishing to testify or speak on any of today's items, please rise and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, we do have amendments. On the regular agenda, item number 9, we have a correction to the heading for residential file-up. The title is not permission to advertise, but actually first reading and adoption. Item number 10, again, a correction to the title. It's a modification to the ULDC for first reading and for permission to advertise for final adoption for the employee housing amendment. I do have one I need to read into the record for item number 8, which is also a modification to the code for our permission to advertise, public notices and postponements. On page E2, line 8, it's describing our first-class mail requirement, and we wanted to add in terminology on line 8 after the word by first-class mail with an ability to confirm delivery. Because there's different abilities with the post office now that isn't certified mail, but it can still give us an ability for confirmation on delivery. So after first-class mail with an ability to confirm delivery.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended? We have a motion by Commissioner Marino, a second by the Vice Mayor. All in favor, all opposed. That motion carries 7-0. Moving on, do we have any postponements, remands, or withdrawals?
No.
Very good. Moving on to consent agenda. Would any commissioner like to pull any items from consent?
Mayor, may I pull item C3?
Pull item C3. So we will pull item C3. And anybody else? Not seeing anybody? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may ask staff, are items 2 and 3 intimately connected such that one couldn't be approved without the other?
3 cannot be approved without number 2.
Okay, so then if number 3 is pulled, I believe we would need to hear number 2 at the same time to ensure that they're, as companions, heard together.
Okay.
So I will amend that to, may I please pull items C, 2, and 3?
Okay. So, consent agenda now will be with items 2 and 3 pulled, which leaves just item 1. So let's go ahead. Would somebody like to make a motion on item number 1 or on the consent agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Bernard, and we have a second by the Vice Mayor. All in favor, all opposed. That motion carries 7-0. Now, we're moving on to items 2 and 3, which have been pulled, and I recognize Vice Mayor Sachs.
Thank you very much. Mayor, I have requested that that item 3, specifically 3 on the C3 on the consent agenda be pulled because I have a conflict with regard to the issues on public storage on that, and it concerns a investigation that is proceeding with regard to a personal storage unit that I had at Orange Storage. So with that, I think I will, upon recommendation of council, I will remove myself from the discussion and vote on that issue, if I may.
So be items 2 and 3, since they're companion items. And so it'll be items 2 and 3, and then you'll file, of course, be filing the proper form.
It has. Just for the record, the form has been filed with the specific reasons for my conflict. So with that, I think I'll step outside and have a cup of coffee.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor, can we do the disclosure on item 1? And then we'll do disclosure on item 2 and 3, please.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. Is there on item 1, is there a disclosure on item 1? Does anybody have disclosure on that? Okay. None. Okay, on item number, there is no disclosure on 2, but since, so let's go ahead. Can we handle item 2 since that's the planning side of it? Is it? Sorry.
I believe it's a purely zoning issue.
Oh,
Both
sorry.
2 and 3.
2 and 3, okay. Is there any disclosure on item number 2? Let's start with Commissioner Barnett.
No disclosures on item 2.
Are we just doing 2?
2.
Okay, no disclosure.
Commissioner Marino?
No disclosure on item 2, please.
Commissioner Bernard, you're not participating.
No disclosure, Mr. Mayor.
And Commissioner Baxter?
No disclosures.
Okay. And I have no disclosure on item number 2. All right, so we'll go ahead, we'll handle item number 2. Would somebody like to?
Motion to approve item number 2A.
Thank you. Commissioner Bernard has made a motion to approve item number 2. And a second by Commissioner Marino. Oh, sorry. Commissioner Woodward is seconding that item. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, all opposed, that motion carries 6-0 with Vice Mayor Sachs not present for this. On item number 3, we'll start again. Commissioner Barnett, do you have any disclosure on item number 3?
No, sir, no disclosures on item 3.
Commissioner Woodward?
Yes, I have a verbal meeting with Neil Schiller for item 3.
Thank you. Commissioner Marino?
Thank you. I had verbal communication with Neil Schiller and Margaret Patterson, and I had correspondence which has been filed.
Thank you. Commissioner Bernard.
No disclosure, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Baxter.
My office and I met with Neil Schiller.
Thank you. And my disclosure on this, I had verbal communications with Neil Schiller and Margaret Patterson on this item. Okay. Is there, does anybody need a presentation? No discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
We have a motion by Commissioner Marino to approve item 3, a second by Commissioner Bernard. All in favor? Oh, okay. This is item 3A and B. To be clear for the record. Okay. So any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, all opposed. That motion carries 6-0 with Vice Mayor Sachs removed. All right. Vice Mayor, you can return if you'd like, or you can stay away. I mean, it's at your point now, your decision. All right. So we are now on to our regular agenda. And we have comprehensive plan amendments with concurrent zoning applications. Item number 4, State SR 7 Business Plaza. And applicant is here, and you are recognized, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Brian Seymour with Gunster Law Firm on behalf of the applicant, BBX Logistics Properties. Thank you. I hope I used this right. Before I start, I want to say thank you to Mr. Mayor, yourself, Mr. Rudder, and Ms. Baker for putting us first on the agenda. After almost 2 years of this got scheduled the day of my younger son's high school graduation. So I really wanted to be here to finish this out after all this discussion and move this thing forward and finally get this project built. And I was really concerned because as much as I love the client and the project, I wasn't missing the graduation. So Mr. Rudder, particularly, thank you. I know that you looked out for my kid, and I also know it was not for me. So with that, we are here on the State Road 7 Business Plaza. Our team, and I want to talk a little bit about this because we have compiled a group of national and local experts to bring this to you today. BBX Logistics, J. Morton Planning and Landscape Architecture, Bowler Engineering, Ware Malcolm Architects, Environmental Consulting Technologies, and Dr. David Menichoff. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these individuals from those companies, except for Jennifer, because if you don't know Jennifer, no one's been paying attention. So Mark Levy is the president and co-founder of BBX Logistics, which is under the auspice of BBX Capital Real Estate. He has been involved in this space for more than 25 years, having worked previously at some of the largest, and in fact, Prologis, which is the largest industrial developer in the country. He is an expert at needs, markets, design, elements, and what things are and how they get put together. Chris Capolini was the lead engineer with Bowler Engineering. Mr. Capolini is a professional engineer for almost as long as I've been practicing law. He likes to tell me he's a little younger than me. He runs their Palm Beach County office and has dealt with industrial properties on this. He worked on the engineering design of the site, make sure we have safe and efficient functionality. One of the more important members here is Ronaldo Gomez, who's here with us today from Ware Malcolm. Mr. Gomez is the director of their Florida region with over 35 years of experience in this particular field, 15 of which are solely dedicated to industrial properties. They're a national leader. Ware Malcolm is in this space, in industrial. And if there are questions about the design, about why it is the way it is, and what it is and isn't, he's here to be able to answer those questions. I could do some of that. All of what you're going to see in here is based on all of these experts. He worked very closely with Chris and with Jennifer on the site design elements. One of which, and I know this issue may come up, is relative to what this is. And this is a warehouse facility. It does have high dock. It does not have cross docks. There's nothing across from one another, right? We have the office space, sort of like what you see along the turnpike near Jog, where you have office space on one side, and then you have some docking in the back so folks can come in, store for some of that last mile, the local delivery, whether it be something like the Kroger's that's coming to town without building grocery stores. They get their storage, it's They have refrigerated storage areas. They have non-refrigerated storage areas so they could deliver to the neighborhoods. It may be things for contractors who get marble or granite for their kitchen redos or the things that come out of that. And they have their front showroom so that clients can come, they look, and then they have the ability to have the materials on site so they can immediately work those neighborhoods and in the homes or the businesses. So it's a variety of those things. It may also be used for things, and I love this particularly because the day of my son's graduation, I'm reminded of all of him when he was little. He used to go to a facility similar to this where they had trampolines and they had high ceilings and they used to jump on the trampolines when they were little, which is great because then they'd come home and go to sleep. Those are also possible. And so you want that flexibility in the design so that you can have a number of different things. And so you see that throughout the design of the project. And Mr. Gomez can talk about all of that, and Ray is here. Jason Hunt with Environmental Consulting Technologies worked on the enhanced environmental preserve areas so that we have increased water quality. We have increased waiting areas and wetlands. It's not just raw land, and that's one of the requirements y'all had, and I'll talk just a second about that later. As well, Brian Kelly, who I think you also all know with Simmons & White, is here. He is a traffic engineer for a long time here in West Palm Beach. He worked on our analysis, working closely with your staff. And finally, Dr. David Menichoff, and Dr. Menichoff did a needs analysis. I'll talk about that in just a second. He is a professor of logistics at Florida Atlantic University. And as this whole question of commerce and the needs in the Ag Reserve were discussed and debated, Dr. Menichoff did valuable research and analysis in this particular area that is about serving this particular area of the county. And we do have two requests today. We're going to present this together pursuant to your comprehensive plan that you adopted. It says you want to see the MUPD. And though those issues are zoning issues, we are going to talk about those all in one shot here. And we're requesting both a CMR land use and an MUPD with the site plan that Jennifer will talk about in a minute. The property's location is here. It's on the east side of State Road 7. It's right across from the Perro packing plant. It's about 3/4 of a mile north of Atlantic and about 3/4 miles south of your solid waste authority transfer facility. Surrounding the properties, the land uses are all AGR. They're primarily, not exclusively preserved. There's some landscape service in the area. And there is, of course, a couple of single-family homes. And Jennifer will talk about how we've identified and worked with the design relative to where those homeowners are. And this design was specifically put together in a way to think about how we can make a significant buffer for where those single-family residences are. So I want to talk quickly about the need and how we got here in the first place. The need for commerce really is county-wide. And I know you all got a email on something else from Kelly Smallridge. Well, it wasn't on something else, but you got an email last week from Kelly Smallridge. As many of you know, I'm the vice chair, soon to be chair of the Business Development Board. I'm involved in this. We have a real need throughout this county, certainly, for these types of warehouse uses. And though it wasn't related to the project, it does sort of send the broad message of what we're trying to do here and what we need in this county. And it's important for things like, as Ms. Smallridge mentioned, supporting small and medium-sized businesses and for community development and sustainability. More importantly than just what Kelly talked about broadly is Dr. Menichoff's review of this particular area of the county. He provided a lot of insight in his analysis. He reviewed industrial availability and need. He found that at the time there was only about a 4% vacancy rate, which he says is an unhealthy vacancy rate in the county, and that you actually have this need, particularly in this area of the county. Part of that comes from the change in the way people shop, the online commerce services, the need to have storage in the communities that sits there. Sometimes it may be weeks or months so that it can get out when people shop. I have said this numerous times. I think Amazon comes to my house at least once a day, sometimes more, not me. But you know, having that availability for that is what people expect and need in their communities. And he talked about that as well. And he said, this is the right location. And he was talking not just about the ag reserve, he was talking about this piece of property specifically as well, because he looked at what was available based on the rules that were coming. And he said, this is going to fulfill a significant need in the area. And so this really is about serving the area as this particular expert, this professor, has determined. This is why when we discussed the commerce land use, this property was discussed at length. And we had multiple hearings. We had 5 public hearings on this land use before we got here. And we talked a lot, and there were individual meetings as well, and Ms. Amara, when she was still with the planning staff, talked to literally, I think, everybody. Multiple times, and we said, how do we get here? And this commission ultimately determined, and I know some of you weren't here at the time, but the determination of this commission was, we want to put some rules in place that it goes in the right spots. And again, we talked about this particular piece of property. That's why State Road 7 is the only access you'll see on this property, because that was a critical element in that year-long discussion and the multiple meetings that took place. That's why we have the enhanced environmental preserves. That's why we have the design elements that we've included. We meet every single element of your comprehensive plan. And we knew we would meet it because when we worked through this, we were thinking about this property and we talked extensively about this property. And so you can see that we do meet the first criteria. We're asking for the CMR in order to do the industrial use. I took my glasses off, so I can't see my slides now, so if you'll give me a second. This is what getting old is. It has frontage and access to State Road 7. It only has frontage and access to State Road 7. That was a significant concern of our neighbors to the south, and we said, no problem. We're putting in 2 bridges. Not cheap, but we're going to do the right thing here. It is pending here. We have a concurrent MUPD, which is what's going to be presented, and Jennifer will walk you through the details of that. It's within that 3 to 50 acres. And remember, when that was adopted, we talked, for those of you who are here and for those of you who went back and looked, we talked about why 50 acres, because there was a lot of discussion about the fear of distribution. And we gave a lot of evidence, and we worked with the staff, and we talked a lot. I'm not going through all of it again today, because frankly, I don't have the time. About why that is, because you need about 1 million square feet, you need the cross-docking, you need the heights, and you need about 50 acres for those regional distribution centers. And so that's why that 50-acre cap is in there, so that that kind of thing wouldn't happen. And we are under that significantly at only 40 acres. And then the preserve, we have an enhanced environmental preserve. We have 29.41 acres of development land and then 8.94 acres of preserve land, which features environmental enhancements and improved water quality pursuant to this comprehensive plan element. And within that context, there were design elements, and I very rarely talk about this sort of thing, and I'm not going to get into in detail, but I'm extremely impressed with the way that Ms. Morton and the design team worked this particular thing. It is a larger set of facility because we do have 40 acres. Now, if it was 10 67,000 square foot buildings, we'd have exactly the same thing, but we had the ability to have one set of traffic not coming in and out to multiple places, but do so in a way that you minimize the off-site impacts because you have the space to do that. And what Ms. Morton is going to show you is how she did some of that, and really thinking about particularly those neighbors to the south. Everything to the north is your preserve area. To the west is preserve area. I'm going to put that down. As you see what she's done, I hope you're as impressed as I am with the way that she's really contemplated the neighbors and the community here so that we can provide something that's long been needed in the Ag Reserve. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, Jennifer Morton with J. Morton Planning and Landscape Architecture, and I'm excited to be able to show you some of the site plan and talk about this project. Before I get into the details of the site plan, I'd like to go back to the aerial. You can see the 40-acre site on the screen, and that identifies the Mulvihill Nursery site. Currently, the Mulvihill Nursery site has one ingress and egress point, and it's on the south side of the property, Hypoluxo Road, and it's at the very end of Hypoluxo Road. So that's how the Mulvihill Nursery is currently serviced. And what is it serviced with? Tractor trailers. This is a view down Hypoluxo or Happy Hollow Road with the tractor trailers that are delivering plant material, picking up plant material, delivering soil, pallets, trays, all for the nursery operations. The picture on the right is the actual Mulvihill Nursery with the tractor trailer trucks circulating on the nursery site. So that's how it exists today. Now I'm going to show you our site plan, and probably one of the strongest and most important aspects of the site plan is that we located our required preservation area along the south property line. The residents were concerned about access to Happy Hollow Road. With the preserve located along the south property line, there is no access to Happy Hollow Road, and there's actually no potential for future access to Happy Hollow Road. So when you look at the project access, we have two access points on State Road 7. We have one at the north end of the property, a right in, a right out, and one at the southern end of the property, a right in, a right out, and a left in. Some of the other aspects of the project, we have located our buildings around a central core area. You can see that we've located the loading area internal to the site. What that does is that gives us the buildings that actually act as a buffer from any potential noise from the operations of this site. Our buildings are set back from the property line along State Road 7. We have a 90-foot setback. Along our northern property line, adjacent to the Lake Worth Drainage District Canal, we have a 130-foot setback. Adjacent to our eastern property line is a landscape services company. We're set back 88 feet. And along our southern property, because we did locate the preservation along the south property line, the closest building is 360 feet away. That's greater than the length of a football field. We're proposing 533 square feet, and that's made up of a combination of office warehouse use. We have employee parking all around the front of the building and the loading area located in a central core. We went through this the last time when we presented our comprehensive plan, but we are consistent with the comprehensive plan policies. We meet the criteria, as Brian indicated, for the Commerce Flu. We're consistent with the agricultural reserve tier. We're compatible with the surrounding area, where there are no overlays or neighborhood plans in this area. And we meet all public services and facility requirements. When you look at the zoning code and the request to rezone the property to MUPD, we meet all 7 criteria. We're consistent with the comprehensive plan. We're consistent with the Unified Land Development Code. We are compatible with the surrounding area. The design does minimize any impacts to the surrounding community or adjacent properties. There are no significant environmental issues associated with this request, and this development really results in a logical and orderly development pattern. Finally, we meet all public facilities and concurrency policies. We've presented this project multiple times. Planning Commission recommended approval of the land use change to Commerce. This board recommended transmittal of the land use change to Tallahassee. The Zoning Commission recommended approval of the project at their May meeting. Therefore, we respectfully request adoption of the ordinance approving the Commerce AGR future land use, as well as a resolution approving a rezoning to MUPD. That concludes my presentation, and we have the whole team here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. And let me, before we start with questions, if there are any, if anybody is planning to speak on this, if you have not submitted your comment card, please do so immediately, because we're going to stop taking comment cards on this item. And then I'm going to also ask our attorney, because I saw people coming in that I expect are going to be speaking on this item, to please get we'll do a re-swearing in for the people who were not here when we began the meeting. You want to go ahead and do that now? Thank you, sir.
All those who were not participants in the first swearing in and would like to speak on any of today's items, please rise and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Very good. Moving on, do we have questions on the applicant's presentation? If not, we turn it over to staff.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Just to briefly recap, so this item was before the board for transmittal at the November 28th, 2022 comprehensive plan hearing. Staff was recommending denial of the future land use amendment. When this was before the Planning Commission, they had recommended to the board approval, and then this item was transmitted 6-1 at the transmittal hearing. Staff provided a thorough presentation at that hearing, and we are prepared to provide that presentation again if the board would prefer.
Anybody from the board? No, it doesn't seem that that's necessary today, sir. All right, moving on. So let's go to disclosures, and then we'll go to public comment. So disclosures, this would be item number, since they're companion items, it's actually item number 5 we'll be disclosing on. Item number 4 is the land use, which is a legislative item. So we can start with Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. So I've had verbal communication with Jennifer Morton, Lauren McClellan, Brian Seymour, Ron Book, and Mark Levy. Thank you.
Did you receive email correspondence you filed with the
Yes.
clerk's office? Thank you. Commissioner Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've had verbal communications with Jennifer Morton, Lauren McClellan, Brian Seymour, David Menashoff, Susan Mulvihill, Joe Mulvihill, Lois and Andy Sewell, Tim and Cindy Linkus, Tim Logan, Ceci Fazio, Roger Fina, H. Waldstein, Ronald Book, Renda Vital, Mark Levy, Eric Weinberger, Joe M. O'Donnell, Sue Pinchick, Judy Hill, Steve Bedner. I don't know, is it Joe Bedner? What's Bedner's brother? Bruce. Bruce. All right. So, and Mark Perry.
Thank you. And email correspondence filed with the clerk.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right, Vice Mayor.
Very good. With regard to item number 5, State Road 7 Business Plaza, I've had verbal communications and meetings with Susan Mulvihill, Joe Mulvihill, Ron Book, Brian Seymour, Jennifer Morton, Lauren McClellan, Joe O'Donnell, and Judy Hill, and I have received and filed emails.
Thank you. Commissioner Marino.
Thank you. On item 5, I have had verbal communications with Joe O'Donnell, Judy Hill, Mark Levy, Brian Seymour, Jennifer Morton, Lauren McClellan, Matt Pinchett, Sue Pinchett, Joe Mulvihill, and Susan Mulvihill.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Yes, for item number 5, State Road 7 Business Plaza, I had verbal communication with Jennifer Morton, Brian Seymour, Ronald Book, Joe O'Donnell, Judy Hill, Matt Pintrick, and email correspondence filed.
Thank you. Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. On item 5, I've had verbal communications with Joe O'Donnell, Judy Hill, Matthew Pinchick, Sue Shelville Pinchick, Brian Seymour, Mark Levy, Jennifer Morton. My staff has spoken with Suzanne Mulvihill. I have correspondence to receive and file. No site visit.
Thank you. And coming back to Commissioner Marino.
Sorry, I also had correspondence, and everything's been filed with the clerk.
Thank you. And my disclosure on item number 5, I had verbal communication with Mark Levy, Brian Seymour, Jennifer Morton, Ron Book, Joe O'Donnell, Judy Hill, Sue and Matt Pinchik, Joe Mulvihill, and Suzanne Mulvihill. I received email correspondence that has been filed with the clerk's office. All right, so we're done with that. I see a light from Commissioner Baxter.
I just need to add, I did meet with Susan Mulvihill, Judy Hill, Joe O'Donnell, and Joe Mulvihill.
Thank you for that clarification added to the record. Okay. All right. So with that, we can start public comment. I believe we have 17 cards.
I think we're closer to 20 now.
Okay. So we'll be offering 3 minutes per speaker. That's roughly an hour. But if you can make your way to the lecterns in advance, that would help facilitate this process. Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, before we begin, did we
Yes.
do the zoning presentation, or do we,
Would you like a,
just to make sure?
the applicant did theirs combined.
Okay, so ours is combined? Okay, just want to make sure.
Well, you want to, because you have a different opinion.
It's at the discretion of the board if you want to hear zoning.
Would you like one?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we have Mark Perry, followed by Steve Homerich, George Slotsky, and Kevin Costello. Please take both podiums in 3 minutes, but you don't have to take 3. No.
Good morning. My name is Mark Perry. I'm at 88 Northeast 5th Avenue, Delray Beach, and I'm here representing Bruce and Denise Bedner. Is it possible I could have the proposed site plan put up on the screen? It would help me with my presentation. Might make it quicker, too. Well, as they're looking for it, initially Bruce and Denise Bedner, who lived right across the street from the development site, had come to me because they just finished remodeling their home.
Could you talk more into the microphone, please?
I'm sorry. Is they had just recently remodeled their home, and this is about a year ago. And they'd heard through the grapevine that there's going to be this development just to the north of them. So they're very distraught, very unhappy, and came to me and said, Mark, we'd like to have you help stop this project. So I did my initial investigations, found out Jennifer Morton's run the project. So I gave Jennifer a call and said, we're going to have an issue here. And Jennifer goes, well, that's not really necessary, Mark. Why don't we meet with the developer and see if we can resolve our issues? And so Bednar's are just immediately to the south of the property. And one of the biggest concerns, and we've been here before in reference to Happy Hollow as being a thoroughfare. Well, Bednar's did not want to have any more access on Happy Hollow. So one of the things we said, we really do not want additional traffic on Happy Hollow. So what they did, they represented us, all access will now be actually directly onto 441, which was great for us. Then the next thing was, well, you're going to be right next door to us. That's not what we want, is that type of use right next to our home. Well, so what they did is they developed a site plan that shows 360 feet of buffer. So it's a win there, too. There's another issue that we had was resolving, actually regarding drainage, and that's also being taken care of as far as the drainage at that location. So at the end of the day, there's going to be less traffic now on Happy Hollow. There's going to be a greater buffer between the home and then the development site itself, and access is all on 441. So Bednar's are very happy with this. They're friends of Mulvihills. They're glad that it's going to be basically a win-win-win for everybody. Win for Mulvihills, win for the Bednars, and win for the developers. So please, we're supporting this project. They've been great to work with, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Sir?
Hi, I'm Steve Homerich. I live in Boynton Beach, Florida. My nursery was one of the first properties converted to industrial use in the Ag Reserve. And at the time, I was approached by a lot of small businesses that wanted to have a warehouse space. The property ended up being sold to just a couple of large buyers, so that didn't happen. But there is a need for it, and I think this is a perfect location for this, and I support the project. Thank you.
Sir?
Kevin Costello, 1331 Southwest 11th Street, Boca Raton. I support this project. I'm a long time. I want full disclosure. Joe Mulvihill and I have been farming in the Ag Reserve since 1978. So we have seen 441 go from a 2-lane road to a 4-lane road with a few thousand cars every day to hundreds of thousands of cars going through the Ag Reserve. There was no interchange at Boynton Beach Boulevard for the Turnpike. There is now. Boynton Beach Boulevard was 2 lanes. Now it's 4 lanes. I have a nursery on Boynton Beach Boulevard. I can't even get a semi out of the parking lot when I'm busy. So times have changed. There was nobody living in the Ag Reserve back then. Now there's tens of thousands of people living in the Ag Reserve. So it's not what it was. It is what it is, though. And I also want to say that, you know, there's repercussions to having all of these people here and all the facilities that have been built to handle that. You have a waste transfer facility right beside Joe's nursery, and basically in the heart of the Ag Reserve. And what has that done? Well, every time somebody has a plant that dies because it's infested with bugs or fungus, where do you think it ends up? It ends up at the waste transfer facility. And bugs have wings and fungus has spores. And now we have thrips, parvis, spinus in the Ag Reserve. Bednar's lost 150,000 boxes of peppers this year. They sold another 150,000 boxes of peppers as B grade. Joe Mulvihill lost his entire crop of flowering foliage this year. Piro also lost most of their sweet pepper crop. And this is spread now throughout the Ag Reserve. So if you think that farming is a long-term viable solution for this area, I got news for you. Thrips parvis spinus has a different agenda. And this is the reality of what we're dealing with now. And what happens when you have something like this? Now we are forced to use more pesticides. And this bug is resilient to pesticides, so it's over and over and over. If you want to bring a crop to market, you have to just pour the pesticides on. I really would not want to live next to a pepper crop right now. And furthermore, you know, I don't think that, you know, Joe Mulvihill should get the benefit of this zoning change because maybe his nursery isn't doing well. That's not the point. The point is that people need to have a place to go to work. They need to have a place, a distribution center, so that you don't have to drive to go get what you need. And for those reasons, I'm for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Hi, my name is George Slutsky, and good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm opposed to this project, agenda items 4 and 5. I'm vice president of the Four Seasons HOA. I represent a community of 315 homes. We're about a quarter mile south of these amendments. So when the first gentleman said there were a couple of single-family homes there, there's 315 a quarter mile away. We were never contacted by anybody. People said they were contacted and people south wanted access roads to Route 7. No one ever contacted us. We were never this was never discussed with us. Remember, we just found out about this Thursday. Perhaps we should have had a better eye on what was going on, but perhaps we should have been contacted also, being we're so close. So we're on the east side of Route 7 between the amendments and Atlantic Avenue. I wish we received earlier notice we could have prepared. You know. So also the pictures of if you had pictures, you can see how close we are. It's the picture or two before this one. The pictures of Mulvihill Farm with a couple of tractor trailers, I don't think that's comparable at all to a warehouse or a distribution center with 99 docks to see those pictures. So that's, you know, I don't have a lot of faith in that talk. So why do we oppose this change? It will lead to a distribution center / warehouse. It will have a very negative impact on our quality of life. Traffic and noise. The heavy increase in traffic, especially large semi-trailer trucks, will make it much more dangerous for us to exit from our community. It will create even more traffic jams at the intersection of Route 7 and Atlantic Avenue 441. There'll be a tremendous increase in noise from the semi-trailers accelerating, decelerating very close to our homes. I have some experience with semi-trailers and warehouses. As a kid, in college, I worked loading trucks midnights for just a small 20-dock warehouse, and I know what that's like. I believe this is going to be 99 docks, 672,000 square feet, and that number means nothing to me, 672,000. But when I put it in the football fields, that's like 3.5 football fields long by 2 football fields wide. It's big. And even a 90-foot barrier, I know a 90-foot barrier, that's not much. So Also very important, this proposed change lowers our home's property values. Future home buyers don't want to buy something in an area that can become an industrial park. And as we said, the staff had written something against this. I won't read the whole thing, you all have that. And in closing, please keep our ag reserve neighborhood as it was planned to be. Commerce zoning and distribution centers, warehouses can be located in areas where there is not a strong negative effect on residential homes and homeowners. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you. Jim Knight, Paul O'Keehan, Madeline Marconi, Melissa McEwen. Take both podiums, please.
Oh, the reason I was running is because I know you guys got a full agenda, and I know I wouldn't want to miss my son's graduation either. So anyhow, my name, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners, my name is Jim Knight. I reside at 740 Havana Drive. I'm a 58-year resident native of Palm Beach County. My business, the Knight Group, is a broker for the Mulvihill family. I'm a real estate expert on the Ag Reserve, practicing here for 10 years. The Palm Beach County staff initiated the commerce, and this board adopted the commerce land use category. All three agencies that it's been before have supported this. Perro Transport, Wawa, Windmill Sprinkler, Paragon Theaters, Joseph's Market, Publix, Dunkin' Donuts, Divine Savor Academy, Bushel Stop, Bethesda West Environmental, Palm Beach County Transfer Station, FCC Environmental, Alterman Farms, and Irish Acres all have two things in common. They are all businesses located in the Ag Reserve. And two, they all serve customers inside and outside of the Ag Reserve. Could you imagine buying produce, gas, food, riding a horse, going to the movies, hospital, restaurants, having your garbage collected, transferred, attending places of religion, school, and having to provide your ID, establishing residence in the Ag Reserve in order to obtain these goods and services? The Ag Reserve has been a huge success. 13,358 acres of land preserved. That's 60% of the total land in preservation. That's 20 of the 34.6 square miles of Ag Reserve and preserved land. According to Palm Beach County staff snapshot, there are 582 acres, 2.6% of the land's remaining in TDRs in place. I respectfully request support of regular items 5A and B, as this is responsible development under the commerce land use within the Ag Reserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Vice Mayor. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Paul O'Keehan, 14600 Starkey Road, Delray Beach. 40 years, I purchased my land in the reserve, built my farm, my nursery business there. Fortunate enough to know the Mulvihills and all the other legacy growers there, the Linkuses, the Mazzonis, Logans. They were all instrumental in my success that I had out there. So I'm here to support them, support the Mulvihills. I'm also here to support the BBX project. I subscribe to the laws of supply and demand. I think there is a need for commerce out there, and I'm fully supportive of it. And that's what I have to say today. So thank you.
Please.
Good morning. For the record, Madeline Marconi, 9618 Capendon Avenue, member and newsletter editor for the Sierra Club Loxahatchee Group. As you already know, staff is recommending denial of this proposed amendment. This proposed project will impact residents by surely causing extreme traffic congestion, additional semi-trucks, an increase in automobile accidents, noise pollution, and an added strain to our public safety. In addition, I have clear fact-based evidence provided by Mr. Ken Martin of SLC Commercial Real Estate for you today to dismantle any idea that there is a need for industrial warehousing in our community. Collier's 2023 quarterly report states that the industrial market is slowing down, with statistics declaring that the market has already turned down. Only 74,000 square feet was absorbed in the first quarter compared to 519,000 square feet in the last year's first quarter, but then ending 2022 with negative 144,000 square feet. This indicates that the absorption declined by 374,000 square feet, which equals a 72% decline absorption. Even more alarming is how developers are currently developing another 2.4 million square feet, knowing that it will take at least 5 years just to get back to the positive absorption. These statistics state that there is currently too much existing industrial space in our county, and any new industrial space added in the year 2023 will only make this volatile situation worse. I am grateful that your staff has properly recognized in this application that developers and Ms. Kelly Smallridge of the BDB cannot just come in here and cite a lack of industrial space and a growing population as justification for destroying farmlands and leaving your constituents to deal with the severe effects. I request that you deny this application.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, before the record, I object to any reference to a letter that relates to zoning issues that is quasi-judicial and should not be considered because it would violate due process. I'm not going to question
Mr. Mayor,
anything.
counsel for the applicant should be given an opportunity to provide a rebuttal after public comment is done.
So what I can't do is cross-examine the person who wrote the letter, which is the concern.
Understood, and you can
Okay.
express that concern.
Thank you.
Ms. McEwen, followed by Susan Mulvihill, Joe Mulvihill, and Matt Marshall.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mayor, Vice Mayor. Melissa McEwen, 1270 Southeast 14th Court, Deerfield. I'm here today to support this application and my family. These public meetings actually become a little family reunion for us, and longtime landowner reunion as well. We've been working with the commission for a number of years to develop, opportunities for the landowners that were left out of the plan. Both my grandfathers settled here in the 70s on my mother's and father's side. And they actually both started nursery businesses, and that's how my parents met and how I'm here today. Here we are about 50 years later, and I grew up out there and got to see all the changes. My father's nursery was at the corner of Smith Sunday Road and Atlantic Ave, and is going to be a future micro-hospital spine institute. Ironically, my grandfather's first farm is where Four Seasons is today, the neighborhood, which actually is next to my father's parcel. And, ironically, when nursery industry was declining and my father passed away, nobody wanted to farm out there, farm nursery anyway, because it's a tough business. So we lent it to local farmers to have cows out there so we can have the ag exemption and keep the family property there. And Four Seasons would complain about the cows and we would get code out there about the smells of the cow's food. And so it's just a little ironic that they're here today to not support us, because we were there long before these neighborhoods. And, we're here today to ask for your support for this application that we've worked really hard for. And we've worked with the county to develop rules for this commerce category that's specific to the ag reserve, with preserve area, with buffers, with neighbors that have worked with, our grateful developers that have developed a plan that is suitable for this, area and site. And we'd like to ask for your support today. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mayor, Vice Mayor. Suzanne Mulvihill, 9821 Happy Hollow Road, co-applicant on this project. And I like to continue kind of where my daughter, with what my daughter was sharing. That was my daughter, Melissa. We're the legacy farmers. We've been here before every GL home development. We've been here before Lyons Road went through. We were here before the county bought the 1,000-acre dairy at the end of Smith Sunday Road. We were here before the Ag Reserve rules were put into place. So when we talk about why have we been coming here for 10 years, when you've heard farmers get up and share about being here since the 1970s, it's because our rights were restricted. When those rules went into place, Resolution R98, 951, those rules restricted our rights and made it unfair for us. And when I speak of us, I'm speaking of the few farmers that are remaining. There's a few of us. Paul O'Keen got up and spoke. Steve Homrich, he finished the process. We were doing this process since 2014. So it took 15 years from 1998, when those rules went into place that restricted our rights. It took 15 years when the development started coming in, the houses started coming in, the schools started coming in, the hospital got built, and the farmers were like, we can't farm. We're getting complaints about bugs, and we're getting complaints about smells, and how do we sell our land? It's like, sorry, you can't sell your land, you have to farm. Well, having been an elected official myself in the city of Lake Worth, I understand public policy. And we would get together, the farmers, and we would meet at Pat Ford's nursery on educating the farmers on how to complete the forms, how to check off the box that said, I approve, please put this into the record. And we all got educated, and we helped educate the commission. We've been before every commission over the last 10 years. From Commissioner Berger, Commissioner Aronson, Commissioner Vanna, Commissioner Burdick, Commissioner Valashay. We've been before every one of you. And we were told, and I just want to finish, we were told on a case-by-case basis, and that's where we're here before you. We meet all the requirements, and thank you. Please support our project.
Well, good morning, Commissioners, Mayor, Vice Mayor. Joe Mulvihill, 9821 Happy Hollow Road. Most of you guys up there know my story. I've been doing this since I was 18 years old. I used to drive from Coral Springs High School up 441 to go to work after school on a 2-lane road with nothing but blinking lights at the intersection of Glades Road and most of the other roads. Been doing this a long time, and when me and my father bought this property back in, well, we signed the contract in '92, and we closed on it in '95 because there was some environmental problems. We bought it from the federal government, or from the federal marshals, because it was a drug bust. But needless to say, you know, those 3 years before I closed on the property, I would drive home at night from my girlfriend's house on Military, and every night I'd make a right on 441 instead of going north, and I'd drive by my property. Then I'd bang at you and go back home. So I've been approached many, many times to sell my development rights, and because the people around me don't have theirs because they sold theirs because they needed the money. Well, I needed the money too, and I never did it because I knew I have a beautiful piece of property on 441, had 30 acres, and then 2 years later I ended up buying the 10 acres next to me because I knew 40 acres was the magic number. Well, 2 weekends in a row I spent in the hospital because I was having what I thought was heart attacks from all the stress from how I just overextended myself to do what I did, and I guess it was just anxiety. But anyway, I asked for you to support our project. It's a beautiful piece of property. We meet all our requirements. We have a beautiful buffer. So my neighbors, the 2 neighbors that are there, will be able to see what looks a lot nicer than my nursery. You know, I've gone through a lot of problems, you know, between hurricanes blowing my farm down, and 2 years ago I started getting letters from code enforcement. code enforcement about a fence that's been up before I bought the property. Code enforcement for, why do I have construction debris laying around, which is blocks or lumber from the hurricanes that were blown down. Well, I ended up doing whatever I could. I spent thousands of dollars moving block and cleaning up and dumping all the wood at the transfer station. And, I was talking to Bruce Bednar the other day, and he said, that buffer's going to be a lot nicer to look at than looking into your busted gate and your fence and, the farm that I have there. So anyway, I appreciate your support, and thank you.
Thank you.
And let's go Panthers and Heat. I'm exhausted. I've been staying up watching sports every night, way past my bedtime. And I was praying to God last night that it wasn't going to go into overtime.
Matt Marshall, please, followed by Joe O'Donnell, Tim Linkus on Lois Sole.
Hi, my name is Matt Marshall, 15098 Citrus Grove Boulevard in Loxahatchee. I can't speak a lot to the Ag Reserve, although I did have a nursery there probably about 25 years ago. I now have a nursery up in Loxahatchee. I can speak to the difficulties facing agriculture right now. I've had a knot in my stomach for the past month over this immigration thing. I think we're not going to have any employees going forward. This thrips virus is a real thing that I think Kevin Costello talked about. I guess I look at this project, and I am a friend of Joe's. I support Joe. I am supporting the project. I look at it as kind of a refreshing alternative to a bunch of homes going up, like has been, the Ag Reserve 25 years ago is a whole different animal than it is now. I think that this project is tastefully done. I think that a lot of thought has gone into it to make it better for the residents around it. And I think there'd be less traffic than filling it with a bunch of homes. So I support the project, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. O'Donnell?
The point is, the project is not a bad project.
Just for the record, name and address, please.
Joseph O'Donnell, 14375 Starkey Road. The issue, could you start my time again, please? Thank you for that. The issue isn't if this is a good or bad project. The issue is there are flu zoning requirements that clearly say this should not be in the Ag Reserve, period. I believe in landowner rights. I believe in their right to sell their property. I also believe in the developer's rights. However, I truly believe in the rights of the existing landowners who are in the Ag Reserve for one primary reason, because of the protections it offers. The developer must not negatively impact existing owners. When a developer tries to circumvent zoning laws, which are intended to protect us, it is the Commission's responsibility to enforce zoning, not give developers variances that hurt existing landowners. The CMR flu does not allow distribution centers in the Ag Reserve, period. It appears this project is being called a warehouse to circumvent the distribution center restriction. The developer provides 4 points as evidence it is not a distribution center. Industry and market data demonstrates the developer's information is not accurate. Their first point, distribution center needs to be 40 feet high. That's inaccurate. The regional distribution center industry average is 32.7 feet, the same height, give or take a couple inches, as this development. Regional distribution center. Distribution center is their second, must be 1 million square feet is their second point. This is also inaccurate. The industry average for distribution centers is 673,000 square feet, the same size as this development. And finally, multiple buildings make it not a distribution center. This is also inaccurate. As far back as 2018, 27% of the distribution centers had 6 or more buildings, and this trend is increasing. In addition, State Route 7 fails numerous flue requirements for all CMRs in the Ag Reserve. Noise pollution, it fails. There's 2 traffic failures that the county cannot address because it's on state roads. The flue demands that trips in a new CMR be no greater than the existing zoning. These trips, using their numbers, are 19% above existing zoning. The flue CMR says it must be for a local, not regional market. It fails here as well. The developer is spending dollars to build a design that's regional. It's 32 feet high, the industry average for regional distribution centers. It's 672,000 square feet, the industry average for distribution centers, and 99 semi-trailer loading docks. This should be turned down.
Mr.
It's in
O'Donnell,
violation of
can
the
I ask
zoning.
you to-
Yes, I'm finished.
Okay,
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, staff. My name is Tim Linkus, 8289 West Boynton Beach Boulevard. Raised in Boynton. Been in the Ag Reserve since 78. Known the Malva Hills since, golly, the dad, 1976, I believe. A few of the things I wanted to say has already been said, so I won't be repetitive, but about 15 years ago, there were several of us met with Commissioner Bert Aronson at the time. Steve and Rose Holmrich was there, Mrs. Logan was there, Pat Ford, Joe Mulvihill. We sat down with them because we were concerned about how the small landowners have been treated since the Ag Reserve was brought around, before the magic wand was raised. I just wanted to make a point that that was 15 years ago. So we have been coming here for quite a few times, for a long time. Kevin Costello made a great point about what's happening with the insects and so forth. You look over the years, the farmers that have left, Barrow Farms, Whitworth's, Thomas's packing shed is being, torn down now. I'm in total support of Joe Mulvihill's this agenda. I think it will fit the area, and that's about all I got to say. I thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Sowell, followed by Drew Martin, and our last card is Mike Addison.
Hi, good morning. My name is Lois Sewell. I'm a former legacy owner of property at 9437 State Road 7 and a nursery owner. I owned my property since I was 25 and did the same route that Joe did with a blinking light. And I can say now that with all the homes out there, I didn't have children at the time, and I came to work and in labor, and thank God made it back to the hospital in time to give birth to both of my children. My husband and I did not sell off our development rights either for homes, and we used the property for nurseries or for our plants and our livelihood. For all these years, went through a lot of cancer scares and heart attacks, and our property, thank goodness, has been rezoned. And I don't think it was rezoned for an obnoxious use. It was rezoned for the good of the community, just like the owners of Mulvihill's property want to do. I believe that the area really needs some commercial or commerce sites, and it's being done in good taste. And the trucks will only be going in through the main roads, so main road through State Road 7. I think it will be a benefit to the community and the people that live there, and I am in full support of it. Thank you.
Mr. Martin.
Drew Martin, I'm here on behalf of the Loxahatchee Group of the Sierra Club. We represent Martin, St. Lucie, and Palm Beach counties. I promise not to cry. during my presentation. I know it is emotional for some people. However, the animals and the trees are unable to show up and show their emotions, and they're the ones that are going to suffer when you continue this constant destruction of the ag reserve. What is really happening here, and I think Madeline Marconi, Joe O'Donnell both made excellent presentations. The first thing is you don't need this. And it's not going to benefit anybody who lives in the ag reserve. Four Seasons got up here and said, we live a quarter mile away. Please don't do this. So you have plenty of evidence in this quasi-judicial hearing to turn this development down. You do not have very strong evidence to make it happen because there's no demand. And State Road 7, as Joe O'Donnell said, does not meet your FLU requirements. So now you're going to overload that road with the noise. And everybody knows distribution centers are going to operate basically 24 hours a day. Right there on State Road 7, the noise is going to be bothering all the animals in the ag reserve who try to live on a certain time clock. And so we're simply asking you to use your proper discretion and turn this down. Now, staff clearly has given you plenty of evidence also in this quasi-judicial hearing to turn this project down. I wish that there was a requirement that at least once every 5 times staff recommends denial, you have to vote in favor of denial, because I feel very sorry for staff. They do all this work, they work overtime, they miss their families, and they give you all these great recommendations and you don't listen. And I really think we need to throw a party for staff to try to cheer them up, because I think they're probably very sad people. It's be very sad for them to go to work every day and know they're going to be ignored. So, you know, if nothing else, please listen to your staff today. We recommend denial. Staff recommends denial. Evidence recommends denial. Please deny this project. I'll return 25 seconds.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. My name is Mike Atchison. I got a nursery at 9625 Happy Hollow Road, and I'm the president-elect of the Palm Beach chapter of Florida Nursery Growers and Landscape Association. I do want to reiterate a few things that were said in this room today, especially about this industry is very tough between bugs, labor, government overreach. If that's not enough for you, you can take a look at my face. Some days are better than others. I'm here before you to express my support for the code change, specifically regarding the Mobile Hill family property. While there may be opposition to this, particularly those that advocate for the preservation of the ag reserve, it is important to recognize the Mobile Hills property, despite being located in the ag reserve tier, is not designated as a reserve or a preserve. The Mobile Hill family has been farming in Delray Beach since 1976, long before the establishment of the agricultural reserve. Someone was talking about existing landowners. Bednar's, Mobile Hills, they are the existing landowners. As we discuss this change, we must remember the property rights of farmers are of the utmost importance. The Mobile Hill family have been stewards of this land for generations, contributing to the ag heritage of our county. Their expertise, dedication, and hard work have allowed them to operate a successful nursery and provide valuable agricultural products for our community for years. I would also like to emphasize that I'm a neighbor within 500 feet of the Mobile Hill Nursery, directly affected by the decisions made in this room today. As a neighbor, I have witnessed firsthand the Mobile Hills family's commitment to being good neighbors. They have taken into consideration the concerns and interests of the community when designing this project. The proposed development has been thoughtfully planned, ensuring that it aligns with the surrounding area and minimizes any potential negative impacts. It is a testament to the Mobile Hill family and their developers' dedication to balancing the need of the agriculture neighbors and the concerns of the community. As we consider this change, let us not forget the importance of supporting our local farmers and preserving their property rights. We must find balance that allows the responsible development while also protecting the ag reserve to the best of our ability. Let us ensure that the decisions we do today promote a sustainable future for both the ag community and the county as a whole. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That was our last speaking card. We have several comment cards that did not wish to speak but wanted their comments heard. John Smeeder, Four Seasons community was not notified of rezoning initiative for State Road 7 Business Plaza, which would be incompatible with surrounding area. Dorinda Panazzo, I oppose these agenda items due to the negative impact of the Four Seasons community, traffic noise, lower home values. It would be dangerous to put this type of facility next to a 55-plus community. Judy Hill, I oppose this project for my neighborhood and the Ag Reserve. I border this property and operate a horse farm adjacent to the Mulvey Hill property. In addition to noise, light, and traffic concerns, there'd be significant impact, more traffic on Atlantic with tractor trailers not close to the turnpike for access, more traffic for Atlantic already overloaded, many million-dollar homes in this area to, I'm sorry, tractor trailers, I can't read your writing, I apologize. And then in support, Sue Ann Yoki, Joe Mulvihill and his family deserve to have this passed today. Russell Reynolds, the rest are in favor, but did not wish to speak. Thank you, and that's it for cards.
Thank you. All right, we'll return it. Do we go to the applicant?
Yeah, it might be appropriate for the applicant to be given the rebuttal.
Thank you.
I promise this is going to be quick. We've got our experts here who can answer questions if you have the specifics. I want to voice a couple of things, reiterate the objection to a letter that we have no basis for, we don't know what it's from, and the exact reason for that is what I'm going to just talk about. You just heard Mr. Martin get up and say that there is no evidence to support the quasi-judicial hearing and that you should follow your staff. Well, your staff recommends approval of the quasi-judicial item, and you should follow your staff. Because what you also heard is about distribution centers. That is not in the future land use, that's in the code. It is not allowed. Distribution centers are not allowed by code. You have a definition in your code of what a distribution center is. This does not meet the definition of distribution center. You can ignore everything else, but to put a fine point on why you have to be careful about what is and isn't evidence is the statement about State Road 7. If that was correct, then your entire comprehensive plan, future land use element for commerce, is wrong because it requires the access to State Road 7. So when you're talking about evidence, the evidence is the experts in these fields who put that application together, who Jennifer had talked about, who worked on the design that she as an expert presented, who are here. If you want to talk about 32 feet and why the average might be, well, sure, because 25 years ago, maybe they were building things that were lower. But Mr. Gomez could tell you what is currently market, what distribution centers are and aren't. But you don't even need any of that because your code says what is and isn't, and your staff has told you that this is not a distribution center. So we could go, well, I'm not going all day. We could theoretically go all day and go through point by point by point. But at the end of the day, the evidence of the experts in the field who put this together, who looked at your comprehensive plan requirements, who looked at your code requirements, all have said this meets those requirements. We have certainly proven a need. Heck, you all proved the need by adopting commerce in the first place. If there was no need for commerce in the Ag Reserve, if there was no need for these warehouses, there would have been no need for the commerce adoption in the first place. You could ignore everything else. You all, well, again, I know it's the change of the board, but the county commission, this county has determined that need if no one else said anything else. So every bit of the requirements that you put in to your code, to your comprehensive plan have been met and has been shown by these experts, and we ask for adoption today. And both of the land use and in the quasi-judicial context of the MUPD. Thank you very much, and we will be happy to answer questions.
Mr. Stone?
Just with a couple of references to this letter, it's my understanding that the letter wasn't actually received into the record, Ms. Marconi's letter. It has? Okay.
There was no receive and file for any letter today submitted. Then when was it submitted?
Good morning, Madeline Marconi again. There was 5 or 6 binders or black folders that were submitted. and I was told they could be submitted prior to the record, and...
Nope, that's not a thing. You were told you have to submit and ask the mayor to submit for the record any documents for the proceeding today. And I don't know where they are, but if you want to ask to submit them for the record, you can do that at the pleasure of the mayor.
At this time, I would love to submit those documents to the record.
Where are they?
I apologize.
I need legal,
Sure.
legal
As with any other evidence proposed to be submitted into the record, the appropriate time to do that is when the participant is at the podium speaking, and so it is within your discretion to receive that.
What about the objection because we don't have the person to?
It's just it's a letter or an article or anything that they can ask to be put into the record. The relevancy and the weight that you give it is up to you as evidence.
All right.
I don't know.
I'm going to go ahead and allow this to happen. We will receive and file those letters. Thank you. And I guess the board can look at them at their leisure while we continue this. Okay. So we have 2 lights. I'd like to recognize Commissioner Bernard and then Vice Mayor Sachs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion on item 4 to adopt an ordinance approving the State Road 7 Business Plaza FLUA amendment.
A second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bernard, a second by Commissioner Marino. And I assume Commissioner Sachs, would you like to be recognized?
I would, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. First, may I see this letter that we're discussing? And if I could have a copy of it, because this is, I would imagine this is consistent with what we're looking at in number 4.
Mayor, if I could, I'm reviewing.
Has it been filed with the clerk?
Hang on. Sorry.
Reviewing the information submitted, it relates to an item. I'm looking through all that now. It relates to an item later on the agenda. I'm not, unless I'm missing something, I'm not finding the relevance to the item before us.
So if you open up the folder, it's under Industrial Statistics in Palm Beach County. I notated where it is. I'm happy to help you if you'd like.
It's certainly not to preclude the board's ability to review this, but I'm not finding anything specific identifying this.
It's the letter outlined, addressed by Mr. Ken Martin of SLC Commercial Real Estate.
No.
Again, I submitted it.
I'm looking at another attorney.
Right. I'd just like to point out the letter is for the quasi-judicial hearing. You are currently voting on the legislative hearing, so I don't think it's relevant to the comp plan amendment.
Okay.
I just want to be sure that if there's information, that we all have a copy of it and that we review it before we discuss this issue. I'm sure Mr. Seymour would be in agreement with that. Is there a documentation that has been presented to the clerk so that we could all have a copy of it?
Vice Mayor, I would be if we all had the opportunity, but we all don't. Staff hasn't, I haven't.
Mr. Seymour, excuse me.
So,
I am not, sir, please. I'm discussing this with the attorney. So if I may, I'm not asking your opinion.
Oh, I apologize.
I'm sure I know what your opinion is. But I just want to see the letter. We talk about this as a letter. I don't know what it says. And can we, Mr. Attorney, review the letter before we discuss
Absolutely.
this?
If something's being added into the record, you have every right to be able to see it. And if it forms the basis of any opinions that you have, certainly I would suggest that you take the time.
What do you suggest, Mr. Mayor? Should we just postpone this for a little bit so we can review this letter?
No, I don't think we need to postpone it. I think if people can take the time to read it while we're here.
Okay.
But as has been promulgated, though, this has to do with item number 5, not item number 4, which is what we're on right now.
Okay, so if it's not relevant to what we're discussing and about to take a vote on, then we can see it later. And I'll go ahead with my argument at this time.
Go
okay?
ahead, please.
And I want to congratulate Mr. Knight, Mr. Seymour on the graduation of your sons, and it's a wonderful thing, and so congratulations. And I want to look at our legacy farmers. I know you have visited your places. I come from a family of dairy farmers, and I know it's tough. And I know that those who sat in my seat, that is Commissioner Berger and Commissioner Bert Aronson, did everything they could. And I will continue that commitment to the farmers in the Ag Reserve, to do everything I can to make sure that, that as stewards of the land, that you have done a wonderful job. We'll do everything we can to make sure that if you don't wish to farm anymore, that your land will be available for other uses. And that's what we're discussing today. What are the uses for this area of land? And that's what it comes down to. Not discussing immigration or not discussing bugs or pesticides. We're talking about other uses for this land. And I think it's important to look at, and that's why I wanted to see the letter, but since it doesn't apply to this, we don't need to see it. But I think we need to look at the rules, because these rules were set in place during the days of Commissioner Aronson and those before him with the folks who live in the Ag Reserve. And those rules are very clear, and the staff has done a good job in stating what the rules are. And what the rules are is that if there's a business that's going to be developed in the Ag Reserve, it should meet the needs of the residents. Mr. Seymour discussed a possible trampoline area, which I think would be awesome if we had an air-conditioned interior playground for kids. I'd bring my grandchildren there. I think that would be wonderful, because that would meet the needs of the residents. And by golly, we need playgrounds in the Ag Reserve. We don't have any. So let's look and see how this use fits within the rules of the Ag Reserve. I think that we have to look at what staff has given us, and I don't think we're going to have a party, but I do thank them as well for the work that they did. And I think we need to look at what FDOT said. And this is something that we all have in our staff report, and I'm going to refer specifically to what Florida Department of Transportation said. Why is this important? It's important because we're talking about 447, State Road 7. It's not my road. The road belongs to the Florida Department of Transportation. And I'm referring to their report. When we sent this up to Tallahassee, they reviewed it, and it's in our report, and by Justin Stroll of the Florida Department of Transportation. He stated the proposed, and I'm quoting, the proposed development of a 763,000 square foot warehouse office as part of the amendment may not be consistent with CMR designation as proposed based on the trip generation represented in the traffic analysis. The proposed development's daily traffic generation table states a net trip total that may be inconsistent with the low trip generation aspect of the policy. And I think that kind of gives us the idea that, the factual idea that it is going to generate more trips than would be allowed under the commerce designation. We need warehouses. We need distribution centers. Let's just say it. We need them. Let me suggest something, folks. Let me suggest that a distribution center should be established in the areas of Clintmore and Congress. We have numerous distribution centers there. We have FedEx, we have Amazon, trucks going in and out, hundreds of them. It's set up appropriately for distribution centers, warehouse offices. The area along Southern Boulevard takes you from the airport right out to the various highways, I-95 and 441. Also, good areas for distribution center. I didn't approve this originally, and I can't approve it today. And the reasons I've just stated. It's not a bad idea. I get Amazon Prime. I think it's a good idea, but not here. Just not here. If you want to put a air-conditioned playground for our kids, I'll go for it. But a distribution center, warehouse, office, whatever you want to call it, it's not consistent with what we want and with commissioners before me wanted for this area. And it's not consistent with the neighborhood. We got to think about those hundreds of folks that live in Four Seasons. They also have rights. So I feel for our legacy farmers, and I will work with you as I have in the past, and we will find ways for you to be able to get out of that occupation possibly and get into something else and have the highest and best use for your land. That's my commitment to you. And I also am committed to those who want to do this distribution center. But bring it closer to where the population areas are and not out on 441. And so those are the reasons why I think it's a great idea, Mr. Seymour, Mr. Morton, I do. I just don't think that this location at this time is appropriate. So I'm going to follow the staff's recommendation, and I would be opposed to it at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Mr. Stone, you're recognized.
Just a matter of house cleaning based on that letter. Having seen it, which I believe we found the correct letter, there are a couple of concerns as far as the zoning items is relevant. The letter was written by somebody that the applicant did not have the opportunity to cross-examine, which according to our rules, the applicant should be given the opportunity to cross-examine witnesses, as well as the issue that the person who wrote it is not here to be identified or determined to be an expert, which could provide competent substantial evidence upon which you could rely. So saying that if that letter formed the basis in any way of a decision, that could be problematic.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding this, and I'll just, so is your recommendation that we do not receive this letter?
My recommendation would be to not give this letter weight as competent substantial evidence to form the basis of your opinion. You can receive and file it as part of the record, just like you would any other document that's submitted, but within the context of the quasi-judicial hearing, do the due process and expert qualifying requirements. That's where the concern comes into play.
Okay. I believe you made copies of that letter.
And Mayor, yes, based on the representations from Ms. Marconi, there was one document within the folder. You might want to take up the rest later. I have 5 copies here. Additional copies are being made. I'll hand these out now, but I'm short at the moment. They're making copies as we speak.
Okay, so we'll allow the letters to be distributed, but based on our county attorney's advice, everybody's been advised as to the status of this document. All right, thank you. Okay, moving on, Commissioner Baxter, then Commissioner Bernard.
Mayor, I would just like to call the vote because we did have a motion and a second.
Well, we want to make sure that we give everybody an opportunity. If a commissioner wants to speak on an item or has questions, I want to make sure before we call the vote, everybody has an opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, because we still are on the comp plan amendment, my discussion was related to the zoning item.
Correct. All right. Commissioner Bernard, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to add, Mr. Kevin Costello came here and he spoke in front of us, and I take take him at his words. And when Mr. Costello says to support this item, I think that we should follow Mr. Costello because he's an expert on the Ag Reserve, and so that's one of the reasons why I do believe that we should support this item. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else wish to have a question, make a comment on this before we call the question? All right. Seeing none, let's go ahead. We'll take a roll call vote on this. Thank you.
Commissioner Barnett.
Yes.
Commissioner Baxter.
Yes.
Commissioner Bernard.
Yes.
Commissioner Marino.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodward.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sacks.
No.
Mayor Weiss.
Yes.
6 aye, 1 nay.
All right. Now moving on to item number 5. This is the zoning application. Now we're into quasi judicial. We've already made our disclosures.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
On item 5, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving item 5A and also stating that I am not relying on the letter that Ms. Marconi submitted to us as competent substantial evidence.
Thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Bernard.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Baxter. All right, is Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would just like to say I had several meetings on this matter, and neighbors are very important to me, and being good neighbors is extremely important. And I peppered Ms. Morton with a number of questions because I know that, yes, there is a neighborhood a quarter mile south on State Road 7, but the immediate neighbors were my priority in this concern, and I had conversations with people who live on Happy Hollow and Smith Sunday Road, which I have driven those roads. I visited. They're nice, quiet little roads next to a canal, and part of the reason that I am moving to support this is because right now I know this property is being used and the entrance is on Happy Hollow, and moving it to State Road 7, I do believe will be a benefit to those who live on Smith Sunday and on Happy Hollow, and I like the idea of the preserve that's put there and the buffers, and I assume that you will continue to work with them, and I encourage any of the neighbors who have not yet met with them to meet and discuss whatever options are available. This is your time before it's built to have your input heard. I had lights were discussed, landscaping was discussed. These are still things that can be put forth to the developer before it gets put into place. So I would encourage you, if they've reached out to you, take the meeting and use your voice, and know that if it doesn't go your way, please come back to me, because that's the most important thing, that the new developer is a good neighbor to you. So I encourage you please to talk to them during this process.
Thank you, Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, I made the motion and it was seconded, but I just, you know, Joe and Suzanne, you've been coming here in front of us I've been here for almost 7 years. And, you know, I know you talked about 10 years, and, you know, I know you've come to my office and I said that we're always going to try to be fair to you. And if you came with the right project, and I believe that this is a good project for Palm Beach County. And thanks for your patience, and I hope that we're being just to you and to your family. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Bernard. Any further comments on this item? All right, with that, we'll go ahead. We'll take a roll call vote on this item.
Commissioner Baxter.
Yes.
Commissioner Bernard.
Yes.
Commissioner Marino.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodward.
Yes.
Commissioner Barnett.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sacks.
Yes.
Mayor Weiss.
Yes.
I'm going to run. Thank you.
All right. Okay, moving on. We are now on to item number 6.
Okay. Item number 6 is the Towns at Tidewater. This was presented about 2 months ago, concurrent with a future...
Excuse me, hang on one second. Could I, as you're exiting the room, could I ask you to please keep your voices down so we can hear staff's comments? Go ahead.
Okay. So this application was concurrent with a future land use amendment to modify the future land use from LR1 to MR5. The board voted to modify that future land use from from LR1 to LR3 with conditions. And with that recommendation or approval, the zoning application had to be postponed to add in a third request, which is actually 6C on your agenda, and that is to allow for a combined density greater than 2 units per acre for workforce housing and transfer development rights on this acreage. So there are 3 requests before you for an official zoning map amendment, a Class A for townhouses, and the Class A for the density bonus. Would you like a presentation further from staff on this?
Anyone need presentation on staff? Okay. With that, then
we can turn it over to the applicant.
We'll turn to the applicant.
Thank you very much. Jennifer Morton with J. Morton Planning and Landscape Architecture. Yes, this item was before you in March. I'm sure it looks familiar. Towns at Tidewater. Just the site is located on the south side of Hypoluxo Road, about a mile west of Military Trail. It is 9.24 acres in size. This is the site plan that was presented to you at the March hearing. In March, we were requesting a land use change to MR5, and what that would accomplish, it would provide for 69 for-sale townhouse units. We were proposing to not purchase TDRs, but to utilize the MR5 density bonus for increasing our density. We were requesting to build our workforce housing requirement off-site at the Villages of Windsor project. That was 17 multifamily units off-site. If the board had approved that request, we would have followed it up with a rezoning to RS and a Class A conditional use. At the March meeting, the board approved an alternative recommendation to change the land use to LR3, but with very specific conditions of approval. We had a condition of approval that limited the development to 69 dwelling units. We also had a condition of approval that required us to purchase 28 TDR units based on the 69 dwelling units. We had a third condition that required us to develop the site, develop our required workforce housing on-site and not off-site, and 23% of the units were required to be workforce housing. We also had a condition that required us to disclose to any future residents that this property had the potential for being adjacent to agricultural uses and activities. Based on the approval of the land use request to LR3, we are now back before you to request the rezoning from AR to RS and the Class A conditional uses to allow the townhouses and to allow for the workforce housing and the TDR programs. Staff is recommending approval of both the rezoning and the Class A conditional uses. I just want to point out a couple of things about our site plan. We're proposing 69 units. We've met with the residents a couple of times. We have made adjustments to the project, and I just want to point out those changes that we have made. If you look at our western property line, we are proposing a 17.5-foot buffer, and we're proposing a wall all the way along our west property line. Our south property line abuts Ranches Road. There was a lot of concern about our residents accessing and utilizing Ranches Road. We have eliminated any connection, whether it's a vehicular connection or a pedestrian connection, to Ranches Road. Fire rescue does require emergency access to Ranches Road. Therefore, where we have that gate for the emergency access, we have made that an opaque gate. So there's no visibility into our project or out of our project. We have also increased the landscape buffer to 30 feet. We've added a 2-foot berm and a 6-foot wall. Then, along our eastern property line, we're adjacent to a church. The residents requested that we add a fence or a wall. We're locating a fence along our eastern property line, so our entire project is fenced or walled in from Ranches Road. That's not a problem. We have our access on Hypoluxo Road. We actually have good access on Hypoluxo Road. We have a right in, a right out, a left in, and a left out. We have designed this community to be a gated community. When you come in, we have a clubhouse, a pool, and within that clubhouse, we'll have a child care area for the residents that live in this community. We have a walking trail around our lake, and we have no back-to-back units. We did a quick cross-section from our two-story townhouse across Ranches Road to the one-story single-family home. We have over 200 feet of separation between our building and the single-family home. It's not a football field, but it sure is close to it. And we were trying to think of something. This building is 12 stories. 220 feet is about a 20-story building. So there's that much separation between the two structures. And we really feel like this project is a Hypoluxo Road project. If you look at the other projects that have been developed along Hypoluxo Road, even our neighbor to the north, Winston Trails, their zero lot line small lot product is located along Hypoluxo Road. The homes that abut Hypoluxo Road are 35 to 40 feet wide with 100 feet of depth. Our townhouse product is also 100 feet of depth, but the width is 22 or 24 feet wide. Some of the other townhouse projects along the corridor, we have River Mill, we have Silverwood Estates, we have Lantern Key, we also have Toscana Isles. We are a Hypoluxo Road project. We're not a Ranches Road project. With the requirement to develop our workforce housing on site, our client asked me to look at what other townhouse projects are providing rental townhouse units in Palm Beach County. There were only 2 projects in Palm Beach County that had rental townhouses. This project will provide 16 units to that market share. It's almost 178% increase in the rental townhouse market. And when you look at the opportunities for workforce housing, it starts with a studio apartment and goes all the way up to a 4-bedroom. Most developers, when they're coming before you, they're doing multifamily projects, and the workforce housing is going in the 1-bedroom and the studio apartments. There are not a lot of 2- and 3-bedroom workforce housing units available. So this project, when the units that are dedicated for workforce housing, you actually get a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom townhouse versus a studio or 1-bedroom, which is the norm of in the multifamily market. As staff has indicated, the 7 criteria that provides for support of our rezoning and our conditional uses, we satisfy all that criteria. This request is compatible and consistent with the uses and character of the area. The LR3, which provides for townhouses, are consistent. We are a residential use adjacent to a residential use. Our design minimizes any environmental impacts. In fact, there are no significant environmental impacts associated with this request. Our request results in a logical, orderly, and timely development pattern. The Hypoluxo Road corridor is nearly entirely developed with institutional and residential uses. We also meet the public facilities and concurrency requirements. So in summary, we have frontage, we have access. Our front door is Hypoluxo Road. Hypoluxo Road has an interchange on I-95. It's a major east-west roadway. We're in the urban suburban tier. We're not in the ag reserve. We're in the urban suburban tier, which is where density and intensity is targeted. The need for housing is great. Palm Beach County voters approved a $100 million bond in order to address the housing needs. The state just passed the Live Local Act, which I know you had a presentation on Tuesday. We have addressed all the legitimate concerns for this project. We moved our access only to Hypoluxo Road. We've added buffering. We've added walls and fences. Your county staff is recommending approval of this project. And this project is located where we have all our services. We have water, sewer, the roads are there. In conclusion, the land use change that was approved by the board in March with those conditions matches the proposed site plan that we are presenting to you today. We respectfully request support for this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of the applicant at this time? Not seeing any. Do we have, let's do disclosures, and then we'll move on to public speaking. All right, on disclosures, we'll start with Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. I've had verbal communications with Jennifer Morton, Ramsey Akel, Alexander Akel, and Warren Dance. Correspondence to receive and file. No site visit.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Yes, I had verbal with Jennifer Morton, Lauren McClellan, Ramsey Akel, Alex Akel, and email correspondence filed.
Thank you. Commissioner Marino.
Thank you. I had verbal communication with Jennifer Morton, Lauren McClellan, Allen, and Ramsey Akel, and have received emails, and they've all been filed.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor Sachs.
Thank you, Mayor. I've had verbal communications and meetings. On item number 6, verbal communications and meetings with Jennifer Morton, Lauren McClellan, and a phone conversation with Alex Akel, and I have received and filed the emails with the clerk.
Thank you. Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've had verbal communications with Ramsey Akel, Alex Akel, Jennifer Morton, and Lauren McClellan, and I've received correspondence and no site visit.
Thank you. And Commissioner Baxter.
I have received various emails which have been filed with the clerk, and my office has met with Jennifer Morton and Lauren McClellan, and no site visit.
Thank you. My disclosure on item number 6, Towns of Tidewater. I have had verbal communication with Jennifer Morton, Lauren McClellan, Alex Akel, Ramsey Akel, Lorian and Dennis McKenzie, and several other neighbors during a site visit, and my staff attended 2 neighborhood meetings. We received email correspondence, and that has been filed with the clerk. Okay, disclosures are complete. We can move on to public comment. Do we have any cards on this item?
Thank you. Yes, we have several. And if you take both podiums, that'd be great. Warren Dans, Roxanne Auld, Carl Terwilliger, and Lauren McKenzie.
Good morning. I'm Warren Dans. I live in Winston Trails, 6708 Brookhurst Circle in Lake Worth. At the conclusion of the last meeting, the commissioners asked the developer to meet with Winston Trails since we'd never received a call. 2 days later, I believe it was Jennifer, called me, and we tried to work out when we'd meet. I mentioned to her, you don't need to have a special meeting for us, that we would join for a meeting that you have with the ranches, if you have a meeting with them, or you could meet with us. I guess there was never a meeting because I never received another call. So my board has not met with the developer. So I don't know why I've been here for the last 2 hours, and I don't know why this is here today.
We need to postpone this.
After I had that phone call, I wrote my emails to my board. I had my board ask the vice president to join me with the meeting with them, which we waited for, which didn't occur. So my community's not represented today because our board isn't here today, and all of our residents haven't showed up because I didn't think this was actually going to happen.
We need to postpone this.
In the letter that was sent to all of you before the last meeting, our board strongly objected to the plans for the towns of Tidewater due to the unprecedented density and the composure without single-family homes. All of the communities that were mentioned earlier have single-family homes, and some of them also have townhomes. There's nothing between Military and Jog that only has condos or townhomes, and this is townhomes. I don't want to misstate that. The West Boynton plan states that all the communities moving from east to west should have lower densities. All the densities on Hypoluxo between Military and Jog range between Winston Trails at 2.4 to the high end of, I believe it's 5.8 for the Toscana Isles when you combine everything.
Okay.
This is 7.5 and it's in the middle and it's only 9 acres. It's not the 9 acres that matters. It's what happens next. The institutional uses, which will end up selling out to all the developers. And what happens further west. There's a lot of land that's going to be developed. This is going to set the precedent. And one thing Cobra and all of us in Palm Beach County have always said, we don't live in Coral Springs. We don't want a concrete area. We live here. We live in West Boynton. It's beautiful. That's all we want.
Thank you, sir.
Miss, name and address for the record?
I'm Roxanne Ald. I live at 5705 Ranches Road. I have an entrance also in Hypoluxo. I go road to road. I'm right next door, the adjacent property, and I am very opposed to this. I do have a farm with chickens and all that, and that's why they put that in about. It is not a maybe. It is there, and it is staying there. And it is a farm, and it has noises and all. I object to that photo, that picture they showed up there. It does not show the size of my property next to that. You know, they're like fluffing it over to the next property, and they're running it over. Also, there's a corridor I have that's part of my property. The dimensions are way off. This is only a 9.2 acre thing, and it's way out of place. I agree with the fellow that was just here. He was very nice. We are a different type of a community there. I made 45 years ago, I moved there for this actual thing. I lived on Hypoluxo Island. You can't have horses there. I moved there for this. And now they want to change the whole structure of the community for this small it was 2 homes they took. 2 homes for this. And they're used to doing land, vacant land. They moved into an established community and they want to ruin it. And that's what they're doing. A walled prison inside of a established community made agricultural for a purpose. We are the people that want to live in that kind of a community. We didn't want to live in these concrete canyons. I moved from Miami years ago to get away from that. And we have Winston Trails across the street. They're trying to show it as a small section of Winston Trails that has something. That is a 1-story development over there. It's not 2-story, and it is not hanging over my property with 2 stories. And also, we do not have any rentals in this community. They want to put rentals in there in the workforce housing. I would like to know really what this workforce housing is. The figures I got here were far different than what anybody could afford when they're building what they're building there. Their building starts at $400,000 from what has come out in these meetings. $400,000 is not workforce housing. It is out of place. It is out of the whole thing, and it's just going to ruin the whole community. We want it, like the man said, going downhill, going towards the west. You know, it's going more westerly. We also have to figure in now that we're going to have the turnpike is going to have an exit on Hypoluxo right there, right down the road on Hypoluxo Road, and that's going to increase the volume tremendously, where it's full now on the streets. When I moved there, it was a 2-lane highway. It's now a 4-lane divided highway, and it still can't handle the traffic. I have to wait in my driveway to get out onto Hypoluxo. I was reminded of all this and why I like all the. We had a squirrel run out in front of us coming here today.
right from the courthouse. How it got into the courthouse, I don't know. It ran across that road. We watched it with our hands to our, we backed up so it would go somewhere.
Thank you,
There was
ma'am.
nowhere for the squirrel to go, and that's how I feel.
Thank you, ma'am.
It killed it, squashed
Thank
it. We tried to help it. We ran out in traffic to go after the squirrel.
Don't run out in traffic, please.
I feel like it. I feel like it. It's going to be right there.
My name is Carl Terwilliger. I live at 5782 Ranches Road. The property to the north of me is owned by an absentee landowner, 7.5 acres. And I can see this kind of a development being right across the street from me. We did I went to both meetings with the developer. There was, aside for a few extra feet of buffer, there was really no compromise given to us. They started with 69 units and they ended with 69 units. They used the emotions of fear, greed, and shame on us, but I've been coming to these meetings for quite a time, so that didn't work with me at least. The options I feel are, one, keep the zoning as it is, 1 unit per acre. That worked with Osprey Estates. There's a nice big lots with a lake and et cetera. So that does work, 1 unit per acre. You could also consolidate along the north half or less. I'm not sure how many units you can pack there, but keep it to the northern part of that parcel and leave it less density, maybe 1 acre units on the southern half. So we see the 1 acre units and they can pack their townhouses along Hypoluxo Road. Hopefully it could all be workforce housing, something under $400,000 per unit. Or take the lake, as they did with BBX, and move it to our side with a nice preserve of pines, cypress, red maple, and another native material, not the Calusia and other garbage, so that we get to look at what our community is, which is pine flatwoods and pileated woodpeckers, et cetera, live in that kind of a natural community. So they do have options. We've given it to them, and they haven't used them. They've stayed with their 69 units, and they haven't changed their plan. Let's see. We're not trained speakers here in our community. We don't have all the facts and the statistics. Jennifer Morton, of course, does. So this is another thing that we're up against. We can't really represent ourselves the way the developers can. Another benefit of our community is that you can come into it, you can buy fruits, nursery plants. I personally have a native plant nursery, a certain number of customers that flow through our neighborhood on the way to my place. There are a lot of people using our community as a bike path, with their kids, because you don't have to worry about the constant traffic. So we benefit everyone, not just ourselves, by keeping it low density.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Lorian McKenzie. I'm at 5906 Ranches Road. We've been out there over 40 years. I'm a Palm Beach County native, and I love the area. I, too, moved from the east to have this land. What we probably haven't mentioned is Palm Beach Ranches has 1 to 5 acre tracts mostly right now. We have animals, whether they're horses and dogs or all the wild animals there. So this does have an impact just because it's putting so much housing on one tract. Now, it's inconsistent, incompatible. And now the developer has done everything they're supposed to with workforce housing, it still doesn't make it compatible. So there are consequences. We decide something now, change to allow these units, and it will never be that land again. We're a rural enclave, and there aren't many of those in the county. I don't know why there's the need to fill in every empty area. That's what's happening. But those of us out there, we're constituents too. And I believe that the taxpayers have a good system here. We have zoning, we have planning, we have commission. But when those people come up with recommendations, I agree, the recommendations aren't taken. So I don't feel for the emotion of the planning and zoning staff, but I do feel that we've funded these tiers, these research, these people who find out what should go there, and now they're recommending for it because the hoops have been met, but it still is inconsistent. And I believe the biggest problem is the western buffer is so close, 17.5 feet. Even out on 441, they're looking at 90. So that's the only reason 69 units fit. There's no buffer, there's no easements. So I just will ask you to please think about what's there, the rural enclave. Do we really need 69 units? There's ways to put in less, and yes, we have all single family now, so this is inconsistent. I hope that you oppose it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Ellen Tannehill, Drew Martin, Mark Anthony Gibson, and Jim Knight.
Good morning. My name is Ellen Tannehill. I live at 6388 Ranches Road. I continue to be opposed to the building of townhomes in our Palm Beach Ranches neighborhood, even with the conditions of a concrete wall and increased setbacks. The property is now considered to be in the Hypoluxo Road corridor, but it is still part of Palm Beach Ranches, and the depth of this property extends to Ranches Road and impacts our neighborhood and this density, with this density and two-story buildings. But right now, I would like some further clarification about the rental workforce housing being built on the site. Specifically, is there an expiration date on this workforce housing rent, such as 15, 20, 25 years, when these rental units revert to market rates, or is this workforce housing rate in perpetuity? What county staff is responsible for ensuring these units are rented at the workforce housing rates? And what happens when this development is turned over to the homeowners association? I realize the county needs and you are eager for workforce housing, but I am concerned you are getting units now that these units will disappear in the future. You'll be gone, but we, your constituents, will be left dealing with the increased density you approved as a bonus for building workforce housing that may no longer exist in the future. Thank you for your consideration. And I would like clarification on these workforce housing.
Drew Martin, I'm here on behalf of the Lux Edge Group of the Sierra Club, representing Martin, St. Lucie, and Palm Beach counties. We oppose this development for all the reasons that the residents who live in the area have stated. And I thought the proposal the one gentleman made about putting in more flatwood, more pines, and red maple was an interesting proposal and might somehow be able to work something out. I do think that this area is experiencing more and more traffic, and that we need to take into account, as you approve these developments, how the traffic will be impacted. Now, I realize the legislature is making your jobs very difficult because they are taking away most of your power. And so you know, it's hard for you to say no to things. You're not supposed to look at traffic. You're not supposed to look at infrastructure. You're not allowed to ask for money for anything. But, you know, somehow you've got to all balance out the needs of the constituents as well as the needs of the developers. It just can't be a one-way street where the developers get everything they want every day and, you know, that you meet, and nature and your constituents do not get, you know, an opportunity to have what they feel is important. And when somebody's lived somewhere 40 years, they have a stake in that neighborhood. And what they think and how they feel should be just as important as the developer or the need for workforce housing. Thank you.
Well done.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commission. My apologies, but I don't believe I'll be commenting on this item today. I believe my comment card was placed in the wrong pile. I'm here to comment on item 7 today.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Thank you. And Jim Knight. Are you still here, Jim? Jim is in support, and that's the end of our speaking cards.
All
And
right.
We have one comment card opposed.
Okay, thank you. All right, coming back to the board, Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just wondering, could staff answer Ms. Tannehill's question about the time limit on the workforce housing rental units, please?
Yes, Commissioner. So the Workforce Housing Code states that all rental workforce housing program units shall be income restricted for a period of 30 years.
Mr. Stone, you're recognized.
Thanks. At this point, it would be appropriate to give the applicant a chance to provide any rebuttal to comments.
Okay. Ms. Morton, you're recognized.
Thank you, Jennifer Morton. You know, just talking to my client, and you know, we want to be good neighbors. We feel like we have a really good project, and as far as the landscaping goes, we can agree to do native landscaping. I mean, I just want you to know that this developer will deliver a quality project and is trying to do the right thing, but he's also trying to deliver housing to Palm Beach County. So, you know, we did have people, we had Housing Leadership Council here last time to speak in support of the project. Just as I can identify with the residents, it's hard to get people to come out, especially to support a project. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question in regards to the negative landscaping. How can we make that a condition?
We do have a condition of approval on the townhouse that there is one additional native palm, pine, or canopy tree shall be provided for each 30 linear feet. However, we could require that there is a minimum of 80% native landscaping for all shrubs and hedges and trees. We also could require some additional pines, or for that condition with one additional native palm, pine, or canopy tree, we require them to be all pines. Because this is, in these rural enclaves, there is a lot of pine canopy. So, you know, those are two options, or you can do a combination of the two.
Yes, and we would agree with those conditions as Ms. Amaris mentioned.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I would make a motion to approve item 6A, B, and C, subject to the conditions.
Would you like me to speak? A
Yes.
requirement that the 80% of the landscaping be in shrubs, hedges, or trees be native, and that the additional condition of approval for the one additional native at 30 linear feet. This is for Exhibit C2. The landscape conditions, this is where it would be added. And for that one additional native palm, pine, or canopy tree every 30 linear feet, that is for only for the south perimeter property line, but that will be changed to be just a pine tree. And the last thing we'd like to, if we may, we did have a condition of approval that we'd like to modify in Exhibit C3. If we could include this as part of the motion. Planning condition number 1 says the units are proposed to be for rent, and we would like to change that to the units, these workforce housing units may be rental or for sale, because the idea is that if the applicant wants to change them to for sale in the future as workforce housing units, we wouldn't want to do another development order amendment before the board. If the board's okay with that, we wouldn't want to restrict them to rental only. We would allow, you know, these are fee simple units. The property owners will own the lot. So if you would like to add that as well, we would support that addition.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Bernard, and hang on. Okay, and I just want to make sure the clerk are you clear on the motion? Okay, And my colleagues are all clear with the motion. Okay, good. And we have a second from the Vice Mayor, and the Vice Mayor will be recognized, and then Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. I second the motion because I think that the applicant has been very instrumental in trying to meet the needs of the neighbors. It's important that the neighbors' rights are recognized and that they have done everything they can to continuously to be good neighbors in that area. So I recognize that applicant has done that, and for this reason. And I appreciate the additional amendments by staff because this is a rural area, and we want to make those chickens happy. So make sure that we have all the buffers that are necessary. And I know Ms. Morton has been very instrumental in trying to make everybody as happy as possible. I love the idea of 2 and 3 bedroom workforce housing units. So that is the reason why I'm seconding the motion.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Barnett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am not against this project. I'm against maybe the particular location. I do have concerns that with regards to as much work as the applicant has put in and dialoguing with neighbors, we already heard from some of their neighbors to the north at Winston Trails who have testified to their president that they have not heard from the applicant on this project. I believe it was postponed at one point last year, and I don't think there's been enough dialogue with regards to the concerns expressed by the people in Winston Trails in the district I represent. I think somebody on this dais should be their voice, and I appreciate you, Mr. Dance, coming up and testifying today. Like I said, I don't hate this project. I like it. Maybe it's not the right place, but unless we can get a little more input from the people who live in Winston Trails as to the impact that they're going to be dealing with as a result of this project, I wouldn't be able to support it right now. I would support postponing it for another month until the next zoning meeting, so as to give enough time for that dialogue to be had. Until that time, I would have to vote no at this point.
Thank you. All right, any other comments? Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized.
For clarification, Mayor, if you don't mind, Commissioner Burnett, so are you making a motion to postpone?
If that's allowed, if I can make the motion to postpone, I'm making the motion to postpone.
I would second that because I agree. I would like more information on this project.
Substitute motion.
Or substitute motion, excuse me.
All right, so we have a substitute motion to postpone. Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support postponing the item since, to give the folks at Winston Trails the opportunity to meet. So if we need more time, there's no need to rush. So I'd support the motion.
Right.
And I second it.
I think it's already been seconded. Okay. So, Commissioner Barnett, and I believe, do we have to postpone to a time certain since it's zoning?
Yes, it would be postponed to a date certain, and I think we would have to renotice under our current policies. No?
All right, I'll give staff a moment to
We don't have to do the 500-foot notice again. We can add it to the advertisement again, but if we're postponing to June 22nd, which is the next time we'll be before you, that's covered by our postponement rules.
Within the 100, okay.
All right. So would June 22nd, would that be your motion to postpone till? Yes, sir. Okay.
I think we need Jennifer to agree.
They have to agree to a postponement?
Because they're more than the 180 days, yeah.
Hello, Mayor, Commissioners. If I could just address the issue that was raised. When we finished the hearing 2 months ago, I did contact Mr. Warren and spoke with him and said that I would be contacting the Ranches Road people, and when that meeting got scheduled, I would let him know and he could join that meeting. Actually, that was his recommendation. The Ranches Road residents declined any more meetings with us, and so it's not as if we ignored them or didn't want to meet with them. That's how that went down. Winston Trails is represented by Cobra, so we've presented to Cobra with its growth management, and we really would like to see this project move forward. We've been in the system a long time. We were up 2 months earlier and presented the project, and so if you would just take that into consideration before postponing the item. Thank you.
Commissioner Baxter, then Commissioner Bernard.
Mayor, again for clarification, wasn't that part of the orders that you had asked for them to meet with residents? Was it specific to a certain development? Wasn't that a condition?
I'll have to look to somebody else who has a record of that meeting.
That was a large part of the discussion. This was before the board 2 months ago for the future land use amendment and the zoning, and normally they're adopted at the same day, at the same time, but the board did postpone the zoning action to meet with residents and have that additional dialogue.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bernard, you recognize.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. I just think that we should give the residents of Winston Trail the opportunity to meet with the applicant without the residents of what's the community called? Sunshine Ranches, or?
No, just the ranches.
Okay, so they just have to meet separately, so in that way, if the other residents don't want to meet, then at least they would have done a good faith effort to meet with them.
So we still need we still needed their permission.
If, under the statute, decisions on these types of hearings must be made within 180 days of the date of sufficiency, and unless it's agreed to by both parties for reasonable circumstances. So if staff is saying that this would put us outside of that 180 days, then the applicant would have to agree, or you would have to make a decision today.
Yes, yeah, you're recognized.
Jennifer Morton, yes, we will agree to the postponement.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and then Commissioner Woodward would like to ask a question.
Yeah, can you pull the map back up to show us the neighborhoods we're actually talking about right now? The overview map that has the different communities?
So you can see Hypoluxo Road. Winston Trails is across the street. We've labeled it. Our focus of our meetings were with the people on the south side of Hypoluxo Road, so they're the one.
And we're postponing to make sure that they can talk to Winston Trails on the north side of Hypoluxo?
Correct.
The Winston Trails, right. That the entire development there is Winston Trails. We highlighted the small lot, zero lot line item directly across the street.
Okay, so just for clarity, moving forward, if we're going to postpone this for this one community, I don't think it's fair to the applicant if it comes back and then another community comes forward and says they didn't talk to us, or if the Ranches is refusing to meet with you. So, because I know this is costly for the applicant. Every time we allow a postponement, you have to come back. And if there's any problems with this community meeting with you, I would not support postponing it again, because I know this has come multiple times. So whoever needs to meet, you've got until June. And I would support it just being this one community. And if there's anyone else that comes after this, I think there's been enough time, so.
Vice Mayor?
Well, folks, you're here. You got your president of Winston Trails here. Is that correct? We have the president and no? Okay. I would suggest, yes, let's move this forward. Let's get this moving. And if folks have any issues, and you have, and they seem to be valid, you've got the applicant here, you've got folks here. Let's see if we can't just meet as soon as possible. Let's get it done, okay? Thank you, folks. Thank you.
All right. I don't see any other lights lit. So we'll go ahead, we'll call the question on, this is a postponement on item number 6, Towns of Tidewater. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, all opposed. This motion carries 7-0 for postponement till June 22nd, correct? All right. Very good. All right, it is now 5 minutes to noon. I tried to get us out of here between 11:30 and 11:45. We didn't make that, but we are going to break for lunch. We will be back at 1:30, and we will see you then. We are in recess.